Um, this is the video about downtime as a nurse. A commenter had asked, and I answered them actually already, replied to them, but I figured to do a video would be good too, because not everybody sees that, and it's just to, vent it out. His or her question was basically, you work 3 days as a nurse, typically, for acute care. Again, this is all acute care, med surge, United States, East Coast, bedside nursing. Okay. PACU, something else. OR, something else. ED, something else. You could say onc or hospice. There are different things. LTACs, different things. There's so many jobs for nurses. So this is pretty select, my point of view at least. But the schedule is not going to vary too much from a lot of those jobs. Maybe the OR nurses and PACU nurses, those guys, the perioperative, because they're going by the surgeon schedule. The rest of us, maybe infusion nurses, also kind of go 9 to 5, But the rest of us are going to go with a 12-hour schedule. There's going to be exceptions. School nurses, whatever, camp nurses, they're different too. They're another animal. But most acute care nurses are going to go with a 12-hour schedule, and that's usually going to be 3 days a week. Because again, you go to the fourth day, you're in overtime in America. So 3 days on was the question from the commenter. What do you do with the other 4 days? The question was, do you find you have enough time to have a social life, rest, recover, work another job, spend time with family, just bum, whatever, And I gave him a pretty good answer, I think. And I'll quickly go over it with you guys right here is, I work my 3 days. I used to do 3 in a row, just because I'm a homemaker on those other 4 days. And custody at the time was basically I work the weekends and I watch our children during the week. So Monday to Thursday, let's say, or Tuesday to Friday, whatever I could swing, and we would just need coverage for the one day. And my ex would work, or at the time she was going to school on the weekends, basically. There's a lot of gray matter there, and a lot of gray areas. I'm not going to explain her side of it. I don't know her side of it. I could just tell you what happened on my side. So that's what I did with my 4 days. I changed that to mix it up a bit every other weekend, just because custody agreements are usually that every other weekend anyway. So I work every other weekend. The weekends I have off, like this weekend, I hang out and do whatever with the kids. During the week, I usually, most of the time, 75% of the time, 75% of the weekdays, I cook the dinners, I do the housework, the laundry, and the older kids start doing it themselves if they want to stay here, is what I said to them. Or they can go move out. Great, move out. And they're like, oh my God, it's expensive out there. I say, yeah, up to you. You want to be an adult? You want to be a super adult? Go be a super adult. I don't mind. No, they'd rather be, large child adult, which is smart. I would have done the same, and I kind of did the same, Another story. So there's definitely time to be a homemaker. Again, you need that coverage for the one day depending on whatever your custody works out to be. Can you also work a job? I said to the commenter, I could work another day job somewhere else or pull overtime, whatever. I don't want to do it. I'm too old. I don't want to do it. I'm going to be 54 very soon. Very soon I'm going to be 54. So honestly, for me, rest is more important. My peace of mind is more important. I'm actually in an MSN program to become a nurse practitioner. It's years off. It's a bucket list thing, guys. Don't worry. So I'm I got to get through the BSN MSN program first, which, I got another year on. So I also go to school. So being homemaker, going to school, I don't really want another job. I don't really want to deal with it. There's a lot to that, and I can make another video of that. But I also mentioned to the commenter, I have a friend I work with. He's a CCRN nurse who just took our Baylor shifts. Basically, that's Saturday, Sunday, all the weekends, and gets paid full-time benefits for working 2 days. He gets paid 3 days worth plus full benefits. I should have gone for that, right? Anyhow, he works 2 days. And then he also works 2 to 3 days, I believe, in an ICU at another facility, another hospital. And he works in infusion, I believe, either dialysis or some people get infusion. They call them infusion centers. So he just does IVs. I believe he works 1 to 2 days there. So basically, he's working 67 days every week. He's 26, 27. So, he's a young guy. He can do that. I cannot do that. That would kill me. But he has a game plan. He's going to pay off his mortgage literally in 2 years. I was like, wow, he's got a sizable house, sizable mortgage, but he's going to knock it out that quick. He is already halfway there. He's got a game plan. He wants to get his wife and kids over from the Philippines. He's a Filipino. He loves work. They love to work. I'm just like, oh my God, you guys are crazy. I can't do this. I can't even watch you guys work. It's too tiring for me. So you can do that. You can, if you're up for it. But most of the people that are watching this channel, my videos, we tend to be on the older side. 26 is like our oldest child or something. He's like middle. I was like, you're one of my middle kids. He's like, wow. I was like, sorry. So I don't think working like his schedule is very viable for anybody. And, I think our money is pretty good. If it's such a big change that you cannot, either you got to change your lifestyle or you're going to have to find another job, or maybe you shouldn't even make the change. That was something I debated for a while because like I say in other videos, I took a huge pay cut to do this. But I made sure I was in the right position, life-wise, lifestyle-wise, family-wise, to make that decision so that I could become a nurse and live off of that salary. There is going to be a change there. So be aware of the pay differential. And it varies. New York's going to, I'm in the tri-state area in New York. That's a different pay scale than Tennessee, than Florida, than Georgia, than Alabama even, right next to you, or Mississippi, or Chicago, or LA, or San Fran, or Seattle. You're going to get varying pay scales, okay? It's like buying a house in those areas. Same 1 acre house, a lot, or half acre a lot, and same house is going to cost vastly different in each of those regions, right? Same thing with pay, right? So, those are the economic issues that, could you get another job? Yeah, you could. I would strongly suggest resting though. Again, we're older. I used to work 5 to 7 days on my business work. Doing 3 days as a nurse was a shock. Not that it was a shock that, I have all this extra time initially. It was, oh my God, I'm dying. Physically, it's a different type of work than office work. Mentally, it was different too, because I'm dealing with life and death situations. So what if I lost $1 million here, or that cost me $100,000, or I made $1 million there, or whatever? That had nothing to do. That's money. You can always make money, or you can always lose money. You kill somebody. That's a big difference. So as I was saying to my educator, I still go to work with a healthy amount of fear, but that's what I said to her. She's like, how's it going? Like a year or so into the job, I was like, I still get butterflies. And she's like, oh, you're excited? I was like, no, I'm fear. It's fear. I was like, Lauren, it's fear. She's like, it's good. And she's like, keeps you on your toes because this is serious work. I was like, you're right. I'm 10 years older than she is, but she's my educator. She was like the hospital-wide educator. And I was like, it's a healthy respect you have to go into work with, that you know somebody's life is on your hands. You know, it's like I nurse paternally. I nurse like my patients are my children. So, you know, they might be twice my age, and I've had patients twice my age, even though I'm almost 54. Literally, I've had patients twice my age, and I've had patients half my age or younger. You know, it's all through the spectrum. And they like how I nurse because I wait on them hand and feet. It's white glove service. But it's because I treat them like they're my children and they're sick. You take care of your kids. And I find for me, it's a good way of doing things. Because I'm very careful, and then I watch over it and I listen to them. So I've been accused, oh, you didn't take care of that. I was like, I was in there 7 times or whatever. And they're like, oh. And I was like, yeah, you know, I don't want to hear I didn't pay attention. I'm sorry the person keeps doing this. I mean, you guys will see patients don't always act in their own best interest. You know, whether they're with it or not doesn't make a difference. You would think logic dictates, you know, or self-preservation dictates, not always. So that's why you have to be vigilant, you have to be careful. So that's a drain on you. You got physical drain, you've got mental drain, you've got emotional drain. You know, I've lost patients. You know, I've seen horrible stories. You know, just sad stories. You know, it's any combination of stuff you can think of. I've seen. Not as much in the hardcore cancer stuff because I'm not an onco nurse. Not so much on the little peds, although I've seen some because I'm not a pediatric nurse. But real heart-wrenching stuff that you're like, oh my God. You get to see the best and worst of humanity. So, you know, you can have a patient that is throwing away their life. They don't care. They're like, oh, whatever. I don't want to do this anymore. Blah, blah, blah. And they're healthy. They're just sad. They're depressed. They're, you know, not just, but, you know, they're suffering from severe depression or whatever, suicidal or something, whatever. And then there are the other end of the spectrum is you got patients fighting for every breath because, you know, they want to see their kids' wedding, the birth of their grandchild, the birth of their own children. They have a child and they're trying to live so it's viable, but they're racked with cancer or whatever and they're dying. So it's a race against the clock. And so every day is precious to them. Every moment is precious to them. So you got both ends of the spectrum. And you've got to deal with that. You've got to swallow that. You've got to process that. Sometimes it's not easy. It's never easy, but I mean, sometimes you need that extra couple days off just to process that. Because you come home, you still got to be normal. I got to be normal for my family. You know, I've got to make dinner. I've got to get them ready for school. You got to do your taxes. You got to study. It's not easy. So be aware that there's a big emotional aspect to nursing that drains you. Many facilities have, complementary psychological, assistance, therapy, whatever, just hotlines, thankfully my traumas pretty much outweigh that. So I already dealt with that stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, I always say to my coworkers, they're like, how can you survive on our unit? You do it with a smile on your face. And I say, because it's less crazy here than in my house. And they're like, they think I was joking. The first couple of years, they thought I was joking. Now they're like, holy Christ, I suspect you're accurate in your descriptions. And I'm like, you have no idea. Like I say to my brother, Star Wars has a better or more believable plot than my family. It's just off the wall nuts. I believe in telekinetic knights with laser swords. It's much and hyperspace drives, much more believable than the craziness in my own family. It is what it is. The life traumas that I've been through. So it is what it is, so thankfully for me, not so bad. But for you, Maybe you've had a somewhat normal upbringing. Be very careful of nursing that. Set aside some time for yourself is basically what I'm saying. Don't be rushing to say, hey, I got 4 days off. I can do whatever I want. Yeah, you can do whatever you want, but don't commit too much until you really get into things. That's why I said to my daughter, she's like, oh, I'm going to have all this time. I said, you don't understand. Those 3 days are going to wreck you. It's not like 3, 4, or 5 or 6 days as an EMT. It's maybe like 6 days as an EMT straight. 3 days is going to be hard as an ICU nurse. It's going to be hard. It's just like I said, the ICU nurses, I think, are top of the line. It's not going to be easy. She's going to need that recovery time, especially as a young person. She doesn't have the life experiences that I've had to defend. She's had her own shit. Don't get me wrong. She's a strong nut. But, you know, one of the strengths that I always say for my viewers, my typical viewers, I think, we're older. We have seen a lot of life. We have that life experience. We have that interpersonal experience. You have that just life experience that kind of carries us through. It's kind of like, it's like, how do you take care of kids? How do you raise kids? Well, sometimes you just gotta suck it up and do it. How do you do that? You do it. You don't do it, kids are gonna starve. You got to do it. There's no, putting off tomorrow. You got to do it. It's 3 a.m. You're making their diorama for them. You're washing their clothes because they got to have something, to wear tomorrow morning. That kind of stuff. You got to do it. So I think us older adults can push through that wall that stops a lot of younger people or less experienced people. You kind of push it. And being a parent, if you're a parent, I think it gives you that extra edge. You can have that extra gear to switch on and say, kill child, or, oh, okay, let's do it. That kind of thing. You're like, oh, should never have been a dad. No, I love being a father. That's my best thing in the world. Highly recommend that more than being a nurse. But hope this helped you guys. If you guys have any questions, sorry for the long rambling stories, but I hope you see that it is as true as I can get across. Take care.